Hello, I'm Carrie, and welcome to episode 9 of the Sego Fibers podcast. Welcome and welcome back. This is normally a knitting podcast where I talk about what I'm working on, what I'd like to be working on, as far as like knitting and yarn dyeing and all that sort of thing. However, this is a special episode where I take you along on the 2022 Utah Yarn Crawl. Let's see, how many is it? It's a bunch of yarn stores that get together and put on this thing during a week where if you visit each one during the week, you get entered into a prize and whatever. Basically, it's just a way to celebrate yarn stores. And it's not all the yarn stores in Utah, but there's a bunch of new ones on here that I hadn't heard of before. So that was exciting to me. And yeah, so the ones that participated were Yarn on the Corner, Harmony, HEINDSELMAN'S Yarn and Gift, Willow Hill Yarn Company, Needlepoint Joint, Seed Stitch, PETIT Fours and Pearls, and the Knitting Post. Now the Knitting Post is down in the St. George, Santa Clara area, so that's the bonus one, because it's like, I don't know, maybe 5 hours from here, so that's a bit of a stretch for everybody to go to, but I have been there before, I think a couple years ago, and it was delightful. I love that place. I got a skein of like La Jolla yarn, I believe, and I made a cowl out of it. It was really pretty, but anyway, I didn't make it there this time, but I do plan on going back next time, and I'm in southern Utah. I was looking down because I was looking at my punch card with all the yarn store info, and so here it is. And so the reason I still have my punch card is because I did not make it to all of the yarn stores. I think there were, if you made it to 7 and you turned in your card at the last one, you'd be entered in for a prize. However, I only made it to 5 of them. So the 2 that I missed out were Needlepoint Joint and Seed Stitch. I would love to go to both of those. I haven't been there before. One is north in Bountiful, not far. And then the other one is in Ogden, Utah. And that's about an hour north, I think. And yeah, so they both look like really fun, good ones, but there were 4 stores south of me and 2 north of me. And initially I was gonna go south one day and north the other day. But doing it in 2 days didn't work out, and so I talked to my mom and see if she would be interested in coming with me for the yarn crawl, which would make it more fun anyway, and then she could also help with the kids. And so she was delighted to, and I'm really thankful for that because this really wouldn't have happened without her. So we did as much as we could in one day, and that turned out to be the 5 southern ones. I don't think I mention it very often, but I happen to have an Etsy store where I sell hand-dyed yarn and progress keepers for knitting and like clay charm type things. And I happened to get like 3 orders right around this time that I was doing the yarn crawl. And so I just want to say a special thank you to you who ordered things. I don't know if you watch the podcast, but if you do, thanks. You helped make this possible. You made this a lot more fun and interesting because I was able to put some of those funds into the, I don't know, the exciting things that we picked up. So huge thank you to you. And if you're curious to check out my Etsy store, I'll include the link below. And also, I do take custom orders. Feel free to message me on Etsy. I am happy to take requests. And I'm also interested in doing maybe dye to order stuff. So if you're interested in dye to order, if you want like enough to make a sweater, I'm happy to accommodate that. Or if you have other ideas for colorways, I'm open to feedback. Yeah, I'm small enough at this point that I'm very flexible and can make pretty much whatever happened. So yeah, if you're interested, just let me know. And right now, I think the store is fairly small. I don't have a whole ton in there. So if there's something you're interested in or would like to see, just let me know. Yeah, so anyway, enough about that. Thank you to whoever helped make this possible. And let's jump into our first one. So the first yarn store we visited was the one furthest south. My idea was drive all the way down and then just hit them coming up, so that way it's less, like when you're tired, there's less you have to drive. And so the first one we went to was called HEINDSELMAN'S Yarn and Gift, and that's in downtown Provo. And they also have a, I haven't opened this yet. It's their newsletter. I'm curious to see if they have anything interesting to see. Okay, so it's more of a, okay, so here's their info for HEINDSELMAN'S, and there's the beginning of their newsletter. Summer classes, Utah Yarn Crawl. Cool. Just, you know, newsletter stuff. Pretty cute. I like it. This is giving me kind of Trader Joe's vibes. Before I went there, I didn't have much of a feel for what to expect, so it was a surprise. And when I walked in, they were super friendly. There were a couple people who worked there, one at the counter, one at the table, and happy to answer any questions, help you find anything you needed. And this was the first yarn store I've seen that had like kid toys in a corner for them to hang out and play with while you look at yarn. And that was the most genius thing I have seen in a yarn store. I wish every yarn store had that. Like, because I don't want my kids to mess up the yarn. I don't want them to like be pulling everything off the shelves and that sort of thing. And I want them to enjoy the experience too. And so if they have something that they're not gonna break, then that's excellent. So they were super friendly, very low-key, casual, happy to help you with whatever. Like, the fact that you had kids with you didn't deter them or make them mad in any way. Like, they're like, yeah, matter of course. You're more than just a knitter. Like, you're gonna have people with you maybe. But anyway, I thought that was genius. And Ethan loved it. So they had this blue shopping cart that he could push around, and he could put different toys and whatever into it. And the rest of the day he talked about that shopping cart, and he just wanted to go back and play with it some more. So that was pretty funny. So Ethan and Veronica absolutely had a grand time. My mom watched them and looked around at various things she was interested in, and yeah, so it was a lot of fun. Yeah, so I would say their specialties were probably handspun stuff. They had some handspun yarn. They had some spinning wheels, lots of spinning fiber. So it was definitely more than just already made yarn. And they also had some commercial yarn of various fibers. They had quite the variety. They also had a special yarn crawl colorway made for them. And so it was by Raven Frog Fibers, and I think the colorway was Snow-Covered Pines. Part of the name was covered up, so I'm guessing at the middle part. So Snow-Covered Pines or Snow-Capped Pines, something like that. So here's the footage I took of HEINDSELMAN'S. And the girl at the counter, she helped check me out and answer all the questions that I had, and she was just ridiculously friendly and sweet. And so I just, if she happens to see this, which I'd be surprised if she did, but anyway, hello again and thank you, and you really made my experience there delightful. So anyway, so here is the fun stuff that we got. And since it seemed like hand spun and like spinning stuff was kind of their specialty, I wanted to pick up a little bit of hand spun. And so I found this skein, and it's just a little guy. They had different size skeins, and this one, let's see. Yeah, this is more of a generic side of the card, but this is Superwash Merino, about 46 yards, and it was made by Madison, and it was only $8. And so my goal was to pick up something at each store, kind of as a thank you slash, I don't know, be part of the fun yarn crawl treat. But anyway, so I thought this would be a perfect little thing to pick up for HEINDSELMAN'S. I love the colors. I think they're so pretty. They're showing up really well on the camera. And I have a bigger skein of Handspun that I picked up last year. I think this would go really well with. I'm not totally sure what to make yet, but I like the idea of putting different kinds or different skeins of Handspun together to make something. And I know Andrea Mowry has different patterns that could lend itself to that. And when I went to the checkout counter, I saw different Berroco pattern books. And so this is, sometimes I just really love local stores because you can just do things on the fly. So I saw this and I was like, oh, I recognize this and I really love this pattern. I have seen this t-shirt pattern, I think I first saw it maybe a month or two ago on Ravelry, and I really liked it and wanted to make it. And I saw it before I made the ranunculus, but I didn't want to cast this one on because I had just finished a top that was worked flat, and I think this one is also worked flat, and I wanted to do something in the round. So I just kind of let this pattern hang out in the back of my mind for a while until the time is right. And when I saw this, I was like, ooh, depending on the cost of this book, it could be more cost effective to get the pattern this way than on Ravelry. And I also really like this pattern. I could see myself making that. So I told myself, if I can get this book for the price of one pattern, like roughly $5 to $6, then it's totally worth getting the book because it's like two for the price of one. And so I saw it at the counter and I said, oh, how much is the book? And the cashier didn't know, and so she asked another employee, and her boss said, oh, just check whatever is printed on the back, that's how much it's cost. But there's no cost on the back. And so when her boss found that out, she's like, $5, everything's for sale. And so that's what it was. And I just think that's so fantastic because that's just the price I was looking for. They were able to come up with whatever they wanted on the fly, and we're all happy. And also at the counter were these honey sticks. I don't know if you have seen these before, but these are like little plastic tubes with honey in them. And this, I don't think I had seen these until I moved to Utah. So in my mind, they are a classic Utah thing, and honey is a thing here, bees and beehives and all that sort of thing. And yeah, so they had a bunch of different flavors of these sticks, and I think they were selling them for like $4 for $1, so they're really cheap. And they actually gave me these free. But this orange one is orange flavored honey, and the green one is apple, like green apple flavored. And I don't know where it is, but there's a pink one somewhere in the kitchen. That's cinnamon flavored honey, and that one's mine, so I need to go find it. I love cinnamon things, so excited to try that out. So thank you, HEINDSELMAN'S, for all that. Yeah, so we had a great time there. I was very impressed. I would gladly go back, especially for handspun and spinning things. They had a whole wall of fiber that you could spin. And I feel like I could go in there with questions and just easily get help. Alright, and the second yarn store we went to is one called Harmony, and it's literally just down the street from HEINDSELMAN'S, like a quarter of a mile or something. Even just going that short distance, it has more of a neighborhood feel, and Harmony is in this old house, and it's painted all sorts of beautiful colors, and it's just very charming. And I would say it's probably the most beautiful one we went to that day. And I was just really blown away. It was not at all what I was expecting. I really didn't know what to expect. And Harmony turned out to be both trendy and friendly, which is a nice combination. Along with all the beautiful displays and everything, they also had lots of fabric and ribbons and notions and patterns, and they even had a large gift section in the back. So yeah, it was a very large store and just really something for everybody. Like if you're at all into crafting or even just buying pretty things, I feel like they would have something for you. It was really nice. And sometimes with the really pretty stores, you might be like, ooh, are they going to be snooty about kids or anything? But they were very friendly, very welcoming, very warm, very eager to help. But they didn't like hover or anything. Yeah, just it was a really nice experience. So yeah, I definitely would like to go back at some point. For the yarn crawl, they were showcasing patterns by James N. Watts, and I think he's out of Florida. They had a lot of samples knitted up on a rack, and so I was looking through those and I was like, oh, I really like a lot of these. And then so I was like, oh, I like this one and I like that one. And then when it occurred to me, like, how and when would I actually wear them? And so that put a bit of a pause on it because they're a bit more out there and not what I would typically wear. And so I was like, oh, I don't actually know. I'll wait on getting any supplies for them, but I definitely tucked in some of the patterns in the back of my mind thinking like, okay, if I can figure that out, then I might knit some of these, but we'll see. One of the specialties, I guess you could say, of Harmony seemed to be this really big wall of Noro yarn. So I thought that was pretty cool. I hadn't seen that much Noro in any shop before. They had a whole variety of a lot of their yarns, and they even had a bunch of their patterns in magazine form. And something else I thought was cool was that they had this big bucket of free patterns, and so you could kind of look through there, and like they were just printouts or tear-offs or whatever, so you could take whatever you wanted, and so that was nice. They just had so many things. So many things. They also had a display of, I think it's called Sinful Yarns. It's a hand-dyed company local to Utah, and I believe she's the sister of Dragon Hoard Yarns, who comes up later. And so that's pretty cool. And they also had a bunch of Letlopi yarn, which I don't see very often at all. And so that was cool. And they just had such a huge variety of things. Oh yeah, they didn't have a play area for the kids, but they also were fine with them being there. And in the section in the back where all the gifts and stuff were, they had they were selling toys, and so my mom hung out back there with them, and so they could like look at the things or carry around a stuffed animal or whatever without being too harmful or anything. So it was okay. I wouldn't go there by myself with kids because that would be too difficult, but with help, it worked out fine. All right, so here's the footage from Harmony. right, and as for the fun things we picked up there, or thing mostly, because they had, like, they seemed to have a special thing for Noro yarn, I decided to give that a try. So I got one ball of this Noro yarn. It is Silk Garden Sock Solo, and the color is T82, and they had this for $20, and I just thought it was so pretty. I really like how there's all these different colors in there, but it's also not super gradienty, so I feel like I could use it for a wide variety of things. This is, where's the info? 100 grams and 300 meters. And it's 40% wool, 25% silk, 25% nylon, and 10% mohair. And so, like, man, I just, like, look at those colors. It's amazing. I really am thrilled with it. I can't wait to work with it. I'm not exactly sure what to make with it yet. My first thought was socks, since you can make socks out of this. However, that almost seems like, this yarn seems a bit too precious for that. And so one of my thoughts is, if I do a colorwork sweater, I could, if I did like a light neutral, this could be the contrast thing for the colorwork. And I think that would look really cool. So we'll see what happens with that, but I'm really thrilled with this, and I'm excited to use it. I think it's my first time using Noro, actually. And in their free basket, or their free pattern basket, I picked up this. And so I just thought it was interesting. It's a nice cardigan, and I may or may not make it with Noro yarn, but it's nice to have a pattern. Why not? All right, and I'm sure you can probably hear some baby noises, so I'll go ahead and pick up Lydia. So Lydia is keeping us company today for the podcast. She was napping for the first little bit, and then she decided to wake up and want attention, so she's hanging out with us today. She is 4 months old now, growing up so fast. But she's at the point where she can, like, smile and laugh a little bit, which is a lot of fun. All right, and after we left Harmony, it was about time for lunch, so we went to Chick-fil-A, and that was a lot of fun. They actually had their play area open, which was the first time since COVID started that I'd seen it open, and so that was fun. So we got our food and ate lunch, and then while I took care of Lydia and Veronica, my mom took Ethan into the play area, and he just had a blast. And there were some other kids playing in there which were older than him, and so they were really kind and kind of teaching him how to play and climb into the different sections, so that was pretty cool. So that was a really nice break, and it was also ridiculously hot that day, like 100 or 104, just, it was crazy hot. And so it was nice just to sit down and get a bite to eat and something cold to drink and just kind of rest a little bit, because it felt like a hot marathon. It was a hot day. All right, and so the third yarn store that we went to was PETIT and PURLS, or PETIT and PURLS. I'm not sure how you say it. Anyway, it's a really cool yarn store that has Lydia is very chatty right now, so we're just gonna let her talk. But they have a bakery / tea shop as well as lots of yarn, and so I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, they were very nice. They did have a toy section for kids to, like, hang out and play in, and so there were different train things and blocks, and so Ethan and Veronica had a grand time there. And they also had, like, different couches you could kind of hang out on and sit. It was a very comfortable and welcoming, friendly place. When we first got there, we didn't realize that it was upstairs, and so you drive up and I think you drive to the back of the building and then you see their sign and you open the door and there's immediately a flight of steps going up. And so we're like, okay. And so we go up, trucking all the kids, and there's a door at the top of the stairs. And as soon as we were nearing the door, someone saw us and she was like, oh, let me help you. And so she opens the door really quick and helps us through the door. And turns out to be Tristan from Hoard Yarn. She had a trunk show there that day, and she just happened to be up in the front getting a snack from the tea room area. And anyway, both she and the yarn store owner were super kind and helpful and welcoming us in and helping us like get into the store. Yeah, it's a lovely little place. Here is a clip from that store. Alright, and as for fun things we got at PETIT Fours and Pearls, or Petite Fours and Pearls, I had looked on their website ahead of time just to kind of see what kind of stuff they had. And I noticed that they had ChiaoGoo needles, and so I was thinking, oh, well, I'm interested in starting to acquire some interchangeable ChiaoGoo needles, and so I'll see if they can order in some needle tips and a cord for me if they can. And they were happy to. And so I had emailed them ahead of time, and I was able to pick them up during the yarn crawl. And so here's what they are. I got 4-inch tips, and one is 4 millimeters and one is 3.5 millimeters. And the cord that I got is the 30-inch. I feel like that's probably a good starter cord to get. Can be useful for a lot of things. And after looking at Tristan's Hoard Yarn section for the trunk show, it was just, wow. One, I just want to say her yarn is beautiful and I highly recommend it. She has so many gorgeous colors and lots of interesting bases too. And she's recently gotten into stitch markers, and I picked up this one. And so I just thought it was an adorable pumpkin spice latte charm. And I really like that this is a really big circle here, and it also opens. So it's a locking progress keeper slash stitch marker. So you can use it either way, which is really smart. And I thought I liked her sparkly branding too. But yeah, so this was $14, and I suppose as a point of comparison or interest, each of these was $12, which I feel like is pretty standard, and this was $9. So there's that. They closed at 2 or 3 and we were there like right to the end, and they were just super friendly. I would definitely go back. They had some really lovely skeins, and yeah, I want to go back to actually go to their tea room section and like get some drinks and snacks and sit down with my mom. And I think their usual eating place was where they had some sale stuff at that point, and that was pretty cool. In their sale section I saw that they had some ChiaoGoo needle tips, like 2 for $12. So like 2 sets for $12, and so that was really good. I didn't pick any of those up then just because I was trying to like be focused with my spending, and that would have been more of like on the spot spontaneous. But yeah, so that was a pretty cool thing. I hadn't seen those on sale before. They also had some books and other interesting things. But yeah, I would definitely go back. The fourth yarn store that we went to was called Yarn on the Corner, and it's also a quilt store, so quilts on the corner. And it's probably easier to find if you look for the quilt one. So Quilts on the Corner. That might also be their website. So they started as a quilt store, and they do long arm quilting there as well. And so when I first walked in, I saw all these like long arm quilting machines, which I hadn't seen before. So that was really cool. And they sell fabric and other like thread and quilting things. So their yarn section is more recent, and so I think within the last year even. And so I got a chance to look around, and they did not have like a toy area for kids to play, but this was during the kids' nap time and they had fallen asleep in the car, and so I just left the car on and the AC running with my mom and the kids just kind of hanging out there for a little bit. They were super friendly and chatty and nice, and we had some great conversations, and it was really fun to look around. So here's the footage from Yarn on the Corner. And as far as fun things I picked up there, I had seen this yarn in other yarn stores recently, and I was like, oh, I really like that, but I'm not sure what to do with it. But it's Fibra Natura Cobblestone, 100% superwash merino wool, and this is 200 grams, I believe, and it has 612 yards, so this is a really big cake. I love it, and the color is amazing. They had another color that I first fell in love with that was purples and pinks, but I had a hard time imagining wearing it, and when I saw this one I was like, I would really enjoy wearing the finished project with this. And so I picked up the colorway Meadow, and I'm really thrilled with it. It's very soft. So my plan for this is to make the Metamorphic sweater by Andrea Mowry, and this would be my kind of the color of it, and then the other color that would go with it is I'd do more of a brown, probably a marled light and dark brown to go with this, and I think that would just be such a pretty combination. And I also got a tape measure because Ethan broke my last one and this was only $2, and so I figured, okay, this will be useful and it'll work. And they also had some free little notions. So this is some sort of, what would you call it? It's for wraps per inch. If you're not quite sure what weight of yarn you have, you can wrap the yarn around these notches and it'll kind of tell you what weight it is. And perhaps you could even use it for counting your gauge. And they had these free little stitch markers. And so I got a few of these in some fun colors. So they'll have the same design, but they're all falling. I got, let's see if I can do this better. Yeah, so they had some fun colors. I really liked, I already have some bold pins, but I really liked these colors. So the orange, white, yellow, and blue. I thought they were really pretty. It'll be fun to use. So yeah, very friendly and would definitely go back. They had a wide variety of yarns and some pattern books, things like that. And of course, if you're into quilting and sewing, that's obviously a great place to go to. And at one point I saw this lady come in holding up this giant quilt and asking for what someone thought, like, oh, should I do this or this for the quilting part? And it was just a really cool, just back and forth kind of creative moment, and I loved it. And so the last yarn store we went to that day was Willow Hill Yarn Company at Gardner Village, which I've taken you to before. And they are located in West Jordan, Utah. And Emily, the owner of Willow Hill, dyed up some really beautiful kits for the yarn crawl. And so she made these like purpley, coppery skeins, which were really gorgeous. And there were some custom project bags, and it came with a hat pattern. And the pattern was the Star Anise hat. And the whole thing together was just lovely. There were lots of people there, and everyone was just super nice. They don't have like a kids play area, but there's a store just down, walkable from there, that does. And so my mom took the kids there while I looked around the yarn store. And yeah, it was a great experience. So here's the footage from Willow Hill. And as far as the fun, exciting things we got, I knew that they carried ChiaoGoo, so I asked if she could order me in another pair of needle tips. And she did, and these are 3mm, also the 4-inch size. And very interesting, these were $8 as opposed to the $12 that at PETIT and PURLS. And I didn't know what it was going to end up costing when I requested that each store order me some stuff. I just figured, okay, ballpark, it should be around $12, maybe $13 max. And so we'll just see what happens. I was really impressed when Willow Hill only charged me $8. So I was like, oh, that's a very nice surprise. I will in future get all of my needles from you. So they have definitely won me over. And yeah, so that was a great find. And they also always have a really good sale section. There's pretty much always some cute stitch markers in there, various notions, lots of yarn. There was a sweater quantities worth of Germantown yarn, I believe. And I thought it was really cool, but I wasn't quite sure what to make with it. So I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll wait this time. But I know in future there will be other really good things there. However, I did find something in the sale section, and it's something that I was looking for and going to buy anyway. And it was the knitting Barber cords. And I saw these in there and I'm like, why are these on sale? So I asked her, like, why is this in the sale, on the sale shelf? And she's like, I just had too many of that color, so I thought I'd put it on sale. And I'm like, oh, okay. There's nothing wrong with them. They're awesome. And they're white. So I think all things equal, if I had to choose a color, I probably would have picked yellow, but I like white. It goes with everything. It'll be easy to use, and I'm really excited to give these a try. And so normally these were $15 and I got them for $8. So I think that's a total win. So yeah, it has one 60-inch cord and two 30-inch cords. So I'm really thrilled that I was able to get that on a deal. Oh, and also while I was at Willow Hill, there were a bunch of other people milling around and shopping and talking and all that sort of thing. I ended up actually accidentally meeting Maggie from Yarnaceous Fibers, and I think she and Emily are friends. And anyway, she was just super nice and started asking me questions about stuff, and I was like, oh, okay. And turns out later I got home and realized, like, that's who she was. I'm like, oh. So anyway, I highly recommend her yarn. She's a beautiful dyer. Lots of really fun kits and interesting things. She does cool collaborations, so I recommend checking her out. So it just felt pretty cool to meet Tristan from Hoard Yarn, her mom, who was also there, extremely nice. I highly recommend checking both of them out. They each have really gorgeous hand-dyed yarn companies, and meeting Maggie from Yarnaceous, like, that was a pretty cool day. It felt like a marathon because of the heat and just fitting in 5 yarn stores in a day. That's a lot. I'm a little bummed I couldn't make it to the other 2, but I do plan on going there in the future. I know Needlepoint Joint has some yarn that I would like to pick up. They have Jameson and Smith in stock, and so I think they have like the little 25-gram balls like I'm making for my mittens that I've talked about in previous episodes. So I want to pick up some more of that for like a hat, I think. And they also have some interesting punch needle stuff that I want to look at. And then Seed Stitch is the last one, and I don't know, you can always use another yarn store, so I'm excited to check that one out. Yeah, so thank you for coming along with me. I hope you had fun looking at all the different stores with me. Do you have a yarn crawl type event in your area? What's that like? Do you have any yarn festivals? What kind of local things do you like to go to that are fiber fun? I'd love to hear. And if you happen to be close-ish to me, I might even love to discover and check out what you recommend. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun. Thanks for going along with me, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and happy knitting. See you next time. Bye.